Once upon a time in a far-off place, there was a tiny mouse. He was very small and also very alone. His fur was the color of the desert dust, and he lived in a hole beneath a dried-up riverbed. One day, the tiny mouse decided to go exploring. He poked his head out of his burrow and looked around. As far as he could see, there were only sand dunes, endless and unchanging. But the little mouse wasn't afraid. He had a big thirst for adventure. And so he began his journey across the golden desert. The sun beat down on his back, and the little mouse could feel its relentless gaze burning into his fur. At first, his thirst was just a gentle reminder, a subtle pang in his belly. But as the hours passed, it grew stronger, turning into a deep ache. He moved from dune to dune, scuttling over the hot sand, sniffing at the wind, his whiskers twitching with each step. The air was dry, so dry that he could feel it scratching at his nose and in his lungs. The little mouse could see mirages shimmering on the horizon, sparkling pools of water beckoning him closer, only to vanish into thin air when he got too close. The sand beneath his tiny paws radiated heat. With each step, the little mouse felt the burning sand sinking into his paws, making him want to run faster, but his little legs could only move so quickly. As he traveled, the little mouse noticed footprints in the sand, but they were all alike, just circles made by beetles. There were no other tracks, no other signs of life. The desert seemed endless, and the little mouse began to despair. A whisper of wind swept across the dunes, and the little mouse paused to listen. It sounded like a sigh, a long, slow breath that carried tales of sun-baked sand and whispered secrets of the wind. But it offered no comfort to the thirsty mouse. The mouse pace quickened, his heart beating faster. His small body trembled with exhaustion, and his once keen eyes drooped with fatigue. Yet still he pushed on, driven by his desperate need for water. Then, just when the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, the little mouse spotted a small shadow, a rock of sorts, a little larger than the others, offering a moment's respite from the relentless glare of the sun. He scurried underneath it, huddling in the meager shade, hoping it would be enough to sustain him through the night. When the moon replaced the sun, the desert shimmered under its silver light, and the little mouse shivered, not just because of the night chill, but also from fear. For in the darkness, strange sounds echoed across the dunes, and every rustle of sand sent shivers down his spine. Looking up, the little mouse saw stars sprinkled across the night sky, a vast, sparkling expanse that offered no help to his desperate plight. With the first rays of dawn, the sun returned, and with it, a new day of searching began. The little mouse shook off the sleepiness brought on by the cool night and started his journey once again. This time, his thirst was more than an ache. It was a burning, searing pain in his belly and throat. His tiny heart pounded in his chest, mimicking the drumming of his paws against the sand. Then, on the horizon, the little mouse spotted a distant silhouette, something that wasn't a dune, and hope surged through him like a tidal wave. With renewed energy, he surged forward, his eyes fixed on that distant landmark. As the little mouse got closer, he realized it was a mountain, and without hesitation, he veered towards it, deciding to climb to its peak. Why that particular mountain, he didn't know. Perhaps it was the tallest, or perhaps it was the only one that wasn't completely bare. Each step was a monumental effort, and the little mouse felt his legs burning with the exertion. Loose rocks shifted under his paws, and sometimes the sand beneath him gave way, causing him to slip and slide down small inclines. His breath came in gasps, and his small chest heaved with each inhale. After what felt like hours, the little mouse paused to catch his breath. Looking back, he saw the vast desert he had crossed, and for a moment, he felt a surge of pride in himself. Then, squaring his shoulders, the little mouse began the final ascent. The peak was in sight, and with a final burst of energy, the little mouse climbed higher and higher until he reached the top. From this high vantage point, the world stretched out before him like a wrinkled blanket. And there, in the distance, nestled amidst the golden sand, lay his oasis, a jewel of green shimmering in the sunlight. At the sight of the oasis, the little mouse felt a surge of joy. It was everything he had dreamed of and more. The green wasn't just a single patch. It was a vibrant explosion of color, stark against the golden sand. There it was, the shimmering water, the sound of rustling fronds, the sweet smell of blooming flowers. It was real. The little mouse's heart swelled with gratitude, and he knew in that moment that his journey had been worth every drop of sweat and every pang of thirst. As he stood there taking it all in, the little mouse felt a sudden rush of energy, a surge of strength he hadn't felt in days. With newfound vigor, he began his descent, eager to reach the water's edge. The way down was much less careful than the way up. The little mouse slid down sandy slopes, enjoying the feeling of the cool sand slipping between his toes. As the little mouse went lower, the scent of water grew stronger, more refreshing, more life-giving with each step. Then he heard it, the sound of trickling water, the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. With a final burst of speed, the little mouse sprinted the last few feet, his little legs carrying him as fast as they could. Then he was there, at the edge of the oasis, where the dry, golden sand met the soft, damp earth. Without hesitation, the little mouse dipped his head into the water and splashed it onto his face. Cool, sweet liquid against his hot fur. He lapped up the water, each drop more precious than gold. Then, taking a deep breath, the little mouse drank, and it was the most glorious mouthful of water he had ever tasted. It was cool and crisp and tasted like heaven. The little mouse drank deeply from the oasis water, desperately, quenching every last bit of his thirst. He splashed his face again, a gasp escaping his lips. In that moment, he felt nothing but pure, unadulterated bliss. Slowly, the little mouse strength returned. His vision cleared, and he could feel his entire being revitalized by the water. Looking around, he took in the lushness of the oasis, the vibrant colors, the sweet smells, the sound of birdsong. It was a paradise, a place where life flourished in the midst of the endless desert. The little mouse felt a profound sense of relief, as if a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He was safe, he was hydrated, he was alive. Then, without knowing it, the little mouse curled up under a palm tree, its fronds offering him a cool, comforting shade. And there, in the heart of the oasis, the little mouse fell asleep, his dreams filled with visions of water and lush green fields. And so the tale of the thirsty mouse who dared to cross the endless desert in search of water became a legend, a story whispered by the wind and carried on the backs of migrating birds. What will the mouse do next? Will he continue to explore the oasis or simply rest? Only time will tell.